Went to join the Army and they wouldn't take me because I was too young. And at that time they told me you have to finish high school. So the day I finished high school, I left. Got on a Greyhound bus, went to Syracuse, they put me on a plane. That was the end of that. Ended up in Berlin, my first tour. Started working for NSA. Did a lot of what we call radio research. And at the time I was doing Morse code and direction finding on Soviet special operations. When I finished and actually left the military, it was 180 covert missions all over the world. And then when I finally got done, I realized that I'd really lived a life that not too many people get to live. So I got pretty lucky. My real name is Steve Carilla. Most everybody calls me Chief. Went on a mission. It went sideways pretty bad. We got hit with a friendly fire incident. Ended up shattering my spine at the lumbar, L4 or 5. 5 came out the front, twisted. L4 kind of fell down behind it and split. They did a fusion from the back at Walter Reed, and the screws broke, pulled out. Had to have it redone because I went back downrange with a rucksack, and of course the geometry of the ruck pounded on the lumbar kind of tore it up. So by the 5th or 6th surgery, it was an absolute disaster in there. Eventually, I ended up in a wheelchair. And then I ran into Dr. G. And he'd worked on me before with hardware and grafting and fixing things in my pelvis and my spine. And I didn't know he did spinal stimulators. So we went up to see him.
I'm Noel Goldthwaite. I'm a senior surgeon at Spine Care Medical Group. Chief was hardly able to walk when I first met him in 2008, and he'd already had 4 spine surgeries in the military, and he had 2 spinal cord stimulators placed, and he was in terrible shape. I had just learned about the Algovita system from Nuvectra and said, I think we should try this. And that made a huge dramatic difference in his life immediately.
Response I had when I woke up and this thing was running, it was like, oh my God, finally. It's been amazing. They put him back in February, we're in December now, and I'm completely off the crutches, no walkers, no nothing. I'm walking on my own.
I think before we had that system put in, there was an unspoken sort of belief that he was going to be back in a wheelchair. And now I would say we both have hope that that won't happen, or not for a long time.
So a couple of things about Algovita is, I've had the wire system in, I've had the other paddle system in. This one just is placed exactly where it needs to be. And because of the coverage, I can turn it on, change it, different program, and keep going.
The programming for the Algovita is quick and effective. It doesn't take a lot of fooling around in the office for hours to get it to do what it's supposed to do. In fact, Chief and 1 or 2 others who've had other systems already implanted and revised out to the Algovita have spontaneously said without being asked, wow, this is way better than the other one. And I think that speaks for itself.
The systems have given him the ability to think again, whereas before it was just this cloudy day of one agony to the next.
Having my brain back is the biggest part. Having the pain control, it's still not pain-free. I'm never going to be. But when you got a mission and a motivation, it's amazing how your brain can shut the pain off. And we train guys to go downrange. We give them equipment, we give them support, we give them all kinds of stuff. We don't train them how to come home. Because when you drop all that off and you come home back to a wife and kids and maybe just your mom and dad, you're a different person. You end up on that gerbil wheel where you come home and you can't wait to go back. And it doesn't make any sense because when you get over there, you can't wait to get home. And in the end, after you do 5, 6, 7 tours, you're just looking for peace. So we have this program up here we call Tranquility Base. And it's based on being downrange, and we go to the Yosemite because there's places up there that look like Iraq and Afghanistan. We sit down and talk about what's really going on at home and why. At the heart of the matter, every human is looking for tranquility.
I met him when he was 48, now he's 58. And he's got his life back now, and he's got lots of things to do, and he's able to do them.
It's been a long journey. It's better now. It was brutal for some years. Steve was angry all the time and took it out on everybody. Now, much to my joy, that older children, you know, they call him dad, they have a relationship with him. They're much more understanding if he still has a bad day and snaps at somebody, but you know, now they have a relationship, whereas before it was, there were a number of years there where there was nothing.
You know, I wrote a couple of emails about taking my wife to dinner and going to a movie. In the 14 years we've been together, that was the first time. And then we actually got on a boat and went whale watching.
You're right, that was huge that he could deal with that. So not only did he get to take less meds, that he could get up and go do it. It was early morning boarding. It was pretty magical.
I stood on the deck of that boat for 3 hours and I cranked up the stem. And it was the first time since the desert that I wasn't thinking about pain or combat or any of that dark stuff. You know, and I told Jeanette at the time that it was the first time that I felt like I was actually alive again. It was more than I ever hoped for.